So I'll start. Hi everyone, welcome to this wonderful evening today. And we are recording this after India's historic T20 International World Cup win. And I have with me someone who I've always discussed cricket passionately. He's a friend, guide, mentor, all rolled up in one. I have R. Sri Kumar with me. Hello, sir. How are you?
How else? I think 10 after that match yesterday, excited and
Yeah.
still processing it.
I
I,
started quite on a formal note, but we know we are not formal when it comes to
I
cricket
know,
when talking
I
about
know, I
it.
know. Yeah.
So yes, I mean, I know you do a lot of wonderful things. One of the things that I know is, you uh, you're passionate about CliftonStrengths, and you probably uh, do a lot of extensive work into it. But I'll let you tell more about that. So maybe if you could just brief all of us about your work profile in short, and then we'll quickly deep dive into the cricketing aspects and something that has united both of us, our love for cricket.
Oh, certainly, certainly. So, I think as I was listening to your question, Anurag, something that struck me is I could maybe give you a broad overview of my background, and then I could come into how my background is also inherently linked with both cricket and CliftonStrengths and, the strengths psychology. And I often use my own background in cricket to explain principles of strength psychology in my sessions. So I grew up in Delhi and 48 years old or young, however you want to see that. And
Of course, yeah.
yeah, and just last month I completed 25 years of my career, post my LLB degree. I'm a science graduate and then also a background in law and diverse industries and experience across industries and sectors. But one thing that's been common as a thread across all these industries and sectors is training and facilitation, and now coaching for more than a decade now. And 16 years of hardcore corporate training experience and consulting, etc. So that's what it is all about. And of course, one other thing that comes into is my passion for strength psychology and the work that Gallup did under Dr. Donald Clifton, who's the father of modern strength psychology, and his assessment tool that he developed with his other scientists there, which is now named in his honor as CliftonStrengths. Earlier, it was known as StrengthsFinder. It's known as CliftonStrengths. So, I help people discover what their talent themes are and see which of them are strengths now, which of them can be weaknesses, and how do you kind of work around them? How do you, partner with other people who have those talents and strengths that you also need to succeed in life? And how do you work around your lesser talents, etc. I mean, it's something that I'm absolutely passionate about, just as much as I'm with cricket. And so that's how it goes. And in my sessions on strengths-based leadership management as well as strengths-based performance conversations, I always carry an old cricket ball, a worn down cricket cork ball, and through that is how I explain principles of strength psychology.
Wonderful. I mean, I am sure that's just the tip of the iceberg, because I've known you and your work since quite some time now. And yeah, I mean, as I said, our common passion, cricket stories and insights out of it. So yes, quickly deep diving into it. Yesterday, after 13 years, we had the chance to get hands at the coveted ICC trophy. What a thriller of match! What were your first thoughts, and what was your reaction after that final ball? Because we were also chatting in between, I know.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think I have to let the secret out here, which even I know. For all my passion about cricket, I think each one of us comes with our own quirks. Yeah. And each one of us also comes out with our own paradoxes. So for all my passion about cricket, one thing I cannot stand about cricket is to watch a nail-biting match. And I think it has to do with my childhood trauma. I would say my childhood trauma. And before others get a wrong impression of what might be my childhood trauma, let me clarify. See, I grew up in a time when, TV was coming into homes in the late 80s and early 90s, right? And at that time, India-Pakistan matches in Sharjah used to be the talk of the town, and that's where the likes of Javed Miandad and Aquib Javed and the Wasim Akrams of the world and the Waqar Yunuses of the world, they were kind of beating us left, right, and center. And as a teenager, it had a very bad impact on me. I couldn't kind of stand all that. So I kind of grew up with a fear of watching matches, and over a period of time, then I decided that I'll only watch the highlights of those matches which India's won. For the rest, I don't want to kind of go through that, heart problems and waste my time about it. But I think all thanks to you and your, I think, gentle cajoling and persuasion, I kind of managed to come back home in time and start watching when India was on its last over of batting, and then kind of sat through it. And
Oh, wow.
I was a nervous wreck. So I must give you the credit, Anurag, that you are the one who managed to get me to watch, a live match where India is playing in the final, not just you have that credit to get me going on that. Having said that, I think, but when Quinton Cock and Henrik Klassen were going, I was going nuts. And I sent you a message that, if something happens to me in the final over, I'm not leaving you anything for you in my will because I've not got the time to prepare a will. It was what a nail biting cliffhanger, finisher, photo finisher, I should say. And to be fair to the South African team, Anurag, I would say, I don't think after yesterday's match, even though few of the journalists in today's newspaper have, again, I think, heartlessly and to be in an unfair manner termed them as chokers, I don't think they are chokers anymore after yesterday's match. I mean, you can't take anything away from a team that has had 8 wins in a trot in a T20 World Cup. And then yesterday, it was just the ones, I mean, in the end, India had options they didn't have, right?
Absolutely.
And India is bowling, and there logic tells that Rohit has to bring Bumrah back, and Bumrah does the job. And Bumrah, if you ask me, is a persona of what I call his strengths-based philosophy, in terms of what he does, and he did that. Then Harshdeep did it, and Pandya did it. And so it was a fair game. It was a fair game that India managed to, and of course, thanks also to the sky-high catch that Sky literally caught and plucked out of thin air.
Absolutely. I mean, to be very honest, at one point when Klassen and David Miller were going, hammer and tongs all over the ground.
Yeah.
It was 30 balls 30. It
Yeah.
was 24 ball 26, and I almost gave it up and said that it's Africa's game to lose from here.
Yeah, I remember you sent
And
that.
exactly. I mean, it's pretty much like 6 wickets in hand. You have a belter of a wicket. Bumrah's 1 over was pending, 24 balls, 26, and they could have been as clinical as possible and taken the team home. But I mean, as we say, cricket is a game of uncertainty. It's about holding your nerves. It's about being in that moment and doing the right things when it mattered. And especially Arshdeep's over, 18th, I think the 18th over that he bowled, and Bumrah's over, of course, all of it cumulatively turned out, and of course, sky high catch that has been the talk of the town now. But yes, I mean, so what I understand is, you don't watch live matches and you just happen to watch this because I pushed you and you watched 2 final overs of it. But it was the last live match.
I watched the entire South Africa innings. It's just that because I've gone to drop my son off at the airport, I managed to come home and just managed to catch India batting its last over before the South African innings started. So from the last over of the Indian batting that I managed to see that.
Got it. So I mean, terrific win, to say the least. But few things in this World Cup that were my key takeaways. One thing, it's somewhere overall this World Cup, it's a bowlers World Cup. Every team that had a good bowling side, you take it Afghanistan, you take it, South Africa also had a decent bowling attack. And likewise, in the last few overs of the match and the World Cup, India pulled it out through their bowlers. So, what are your key takeaways, or how is it about holding the nerves, or what does it take to perform in those crunch situations as per you? Anything you want to throw some light upon?
No, absolutely. In fact, when I was watching the match yesterday, I think there
Mhm.
came a point for me where there was a personal transformation for me,
Mhm.
honestly, because I'm always a bundle of nerves, nerve wreck, and that's why I don't watch these matches. I think point came where I said, it's a mind game, right? If I was in the
Correct.
middle, how would I do that? What's the first thing I will tell myself or tell my participants in my corporate workshops to do? And that is that mind over matter, mind over body, right? And I do my own anchoring exercise. Now, anchoring is a term that we use in neuro-linguistic programming, and in that
Mhm.
I managed to kind of center myself, center my own emotions. And I said, if I was the captain here, can I afford to be a nerve wreck right now? How would I, perform here as a captain of the team? What would I do for my team? How would I kind of collect my sources? Because till the last ball is bowled, or the result is declared, you can't afford to have your emotions kind of come over to you. And so, so it's about leadership. And there's a great statement that says that all leadership starts with self-leadership. So I said,
Mhm.
it's about how do you kind of calm yourself down. And thankfully, at that moment, even though I'm just a spectator, I'm not the one in the field. I happen to remember MS Dhoni's great line. I think in one of the interviews, he said, more than results or the outcome, it's about the cold-blooded focus on the process. So you take
Correct.
each game at a time, you take each ball at a time, you take each strike at a time, and then see, okay, what do I do next? If you follow the process, then
Correct.
chances of getting the results are high. So in a way, personally, I was able to kind of calm myself down, and I said, okay, what do we do now? What are the conditions telling us, and how do we do it? So it's essentially a mind game. And I think essentially yesterday, in a way, I would dare to say, Anurag, that India had the advantage because it was bowling. So far as the South African batting team was concerned, there were only two of them in the middle. They were disconnected
Correct.
from the rest of the team. They didn't have the option to kind of take in a vantage point from the side of the viewers, right? And from where some input could have come. So India in the bowling side had the advantage where they could see read the whole ground there, and Rohit and Virat and everyone else could kind of come and say, okay, what do we do next? And the commentators
Correct.
were constantly saying that because of the wind, it's not going to aid the left arm bowlers, and that's why we saw
Correct.
a Akshar Patel or even a Jadeja being ineffective yesterday, except for that one wicket that Akshar Patel managed to take. And the commentators were constantly saying it's a matter of when that Rohit takes a call about bringing Bumrah back into the attack. So it's
Correct.
always a mind game. It's always a mind game. All of the things being equal in terms of competency, I don't see the Indian or the South African team any less than each other, right?
Correct.
But the Indian team, I would say, had an advantage because they were in the field. They could discuss, they could kind of see the vantage point, make the adjustments, bring Bumrah back right at the right time. I think create those breakthroughs. So that's my key takeaway from that.
Absolutely.
And one more thing,
Mhm.
when Rohit brought Hardik to the over, I happen to remember one old match, if you remember, where Nehra was also playing, Dhoni was the wicket.
The run out Bangladesh against.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I
Yes.
was telling myself that, if somehow I could go into Hardik's mind and help him remind himself of that match and, put him in that emotional state and of programming for success, like we talk about in NLP, he will
Mhm.
still able to, bury his ghosts from the last 1 year or so and then
Mhm.
go and deliver the job and win it. It's a mind game. And I think Hardik, I don't know what happened in his mind. I would love to interview him and find out what happened, but I think he managed to kind of click himself back into that state
Correct.
and just focus on what needs to be done next.
Absolutely. And I'm sure the catch of Sky High complemented to his thought process and what was running through his mind that time.
I
Because
that was the X factor. I think that was
exactly.
the X factor that no team had in reckoning.
Absolutely.
Certainly not even South Africa, because I think they were going boom, boom, boom. And had it not been for that catch, I think we would have lost the match. So I think that unpredictability, the X factor, I think even the Indian team was not expecting that, we could have wished and hoped such a thing would happen. But I think you never know how and where a bat connects to a ball, which angle it goes, who's the fielder there, what's the running condition. I think that was the X factor that made all the difference.
I mean, that's what you play sports for, and that's the game. It's all about uncertainties, performing on the day. Great. So, I mean, now that we've seen about the match and the yesterday's thing, I want to just double click on two wonderful players and legends of the game. After the game, there was also a news about retirement of two players. Of course, Rohit Sharma and Virat Kohli. So both of them, if we focus on Rohit Sharma to begin with, played the 2007 World Cup, which India won, and now this after 17 years, got his hands at the cup, and especially what happened 8 months back, in the month of November with the final. So, in your knowledge and perspective, how do you see Rohit Sharma, or what are the qualities that you feel which sustained him on the greatest level of cricket? Any takeaways or any thoughts that come to your mind about Rohit Sharma and his career spanning over, say, 2 decades now? I mean,
See, I think maybe if we interview Rohit Sharma is when we will know what's going on in his mind. But I'll hazard an interesting guess.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
And let me give the answer this way, Anurag.
sure,
Let me give the answer by comparing his profession with mine.
correct,
Okay, I'm into training and facilitation. Now, in my line of work, most of the factors are constants, and there are very few variables, right? Now, if I've
correct,
understood the client context, if we've got the training date set, if we know who the audience profile is going to be, what's their background, what are their needs, etc. All those things are constants, and then I just need to go and deliver my job. So in that sense, I have more predictability. I have more control in the work I do, not his stuff. Doesn't matter what your pedigree, what your experience, what your competency. Doesn't matter if you were the first player in the world to score 2 double centuries in ODI cricket, right? Doesn't matter. None of that matters. Because, like Brian Lara's coach told him after that 277 not out in 1994, he said, Brian, and while the rest of the world was celebrating Brian's achievement, his coach told him that, remember, Brian, your next score doesn't start from 277 onwards, it starts from 0, right? So every session of the play, every inch of the game, every brink of the game, every break of the game, you start on a literally fresh scale where the variables are more than the constants. And that kind of, makes the job of any player that much more difficult. But here is what I think I can hazard in terms of what would have gone on in Rohit's mind. Having played the game, he knows it far better. So it's about how do you kind of reset your mind. Now, how do you reset your mind? And then again, it's not robots who are playing the game, Anurag. It's humans who are playing the game. So we as
exactly,
humans will have all our emotions all over the place: fear, excitement, anxiety, so many things that are kind of buried inside the ghosts and the crosses and the albatross and everything that's around our neck. And from that moment to try and get your mind back on a rational plane is going to be always a challenge. So I think it's essentially about how he would have worked on his mind, got himself and the whole team back on the rational plane, on the ground, and did that job is what would have made all the difference. And for that matter, any champion player for that matter is how I would say it. I mean, I think the best comparable example of both the unpredictability and the mind game coming to back to would be that, I think, that phenomenal knock, Dravid,
semi-final,
Dravid and Laxman played all the way
correct,
back March 2001 when, India was following on in Kolkata.
correct,
And the Aussies thought that they were going to roast and have a gala time. No, they kind of came back. So it's about how do you get your mind back? How do you apply, in our language, I would say, how do you apply principles of emotional intelligence to stay
correct,
on top of the game and get the job done?
correct, correct, correct. Got it. So I mean, knowing Rohit Sharma, he's had that nonchalant demeanor. He's the kind of guy who's friends with everyone. Even if he sort of lashes at somebody, they know that you love. He loves you, and sort of makes it comfortable. Quite a different style of leadership and managing the team as opposed to maybe if we have to compare with Virat Kohli. He was the captain before. So, I mean, coming back to Virat, with his career and things that he has achieved, and of course, the legend of the game, what are your insights about a personality of Virat Kohli? And maybe I will also tell you to kind of brief us about what CliftonStrengths are, maybe the 34 teams and what they distributed amongst the four. And what do you think? It's a guesswork, I know, but in your understanding and knowledge, what makes Virat Kohli the Virat Kohli that he is today?
I think you should have ended the question by asking what makes Virat Kohli a true GOAT,
Correct.
greatest of all the times, right?
Of
And along with even, I think, along with even Rohit Sharma. And I think, before I
course.
must say this, Anurag, it's inevitable, but I think it's going to be sad and bittersweet to see, these two pillars, these two giants, these two legends of the game retire at the same time. I think
Correct.
they complemented each other so beautifully well.
Correct.
And one kind of picked up where the other had missed out. I mean, we could see it even in the ODI, and especially in the semi-final. And I think I interrupted you. You were talking about some semi-final before, Anurag, while I was.
Correct. Yeah, I mean, I was just referring to the semi-final knock of Rohit Sharma. I mean, he single-handedly sort of took India home in that and against the England.
Absolutely.
So yeah, I mean, that's what I was referring to. Yeah.
Yeah, I got it. So when I'm saying, all of a sudden, when I mean, we knew that it was inevitable, but in the morning when I heard that Rohit Sharma has also announced his retirement,
Correct.
all of a sudden लगा कि यार अब अगला चैंपियंस अगला जो T20 होगा 2 साल बाद उसका क्या होगा? But I think it's also wake up call
Exactly.
for us to build and develop our bench strength and somewhere trust our bench strength, right?
Correct.
All
Correct.
other uncertainties being equal. Having said that, I think let me come back to your main question, Anurag. You asked me to talk about Virat's personality and in a way connected with the strengths part, right? Now, there is one side of a persona which is visible, right? And specifically speaking about Virat, it's like his aggression, his determination, his go-getter attitude, his killer instinct, take no prisoners kind of an attitude when it comes to the game, his aggression, his excitement, his, sense of celebration. And along with that, I think it's also his sportsman spirit. I think I can never forget what he asked the crowd to do when the crowd was going, Smith. Smith.
Okay. Yeah.
The Australian captain after his ban, and he came back.
Correct.
And I think he has, more passionate fans in Pakistan than maybe I guess here in India. So there is there's a visible side to it of any person's personality, and then there is the invisible part to it. Now, the invisible part is what the strengths measures or the Clifton Strengths Assessment measures, right? And it helps us make sense of the behavior of a person outside, the consistent behavior of a person on the outside. And for that is where we have, the scientists at Gallup, led by Dr. Donald Clifton, and the statisticians, the mathematicians, the psychologists, etc. They studied excellence. They studied excellence for many decades, and from decoding how those people worked is where they came to understand that as of today, there are 34 different talent themes that every person would have. And how do you know this? You know this by doing a psychometric assessment, which I said is called as a Clifton Strengths Assessment, right? Now you do that and you see how these 34 talent themes are spread inside you, from what is called as your dominant talents to your supporting talents to your lesser talents. Now from these is where, you help yourself understand that out of the top 10 that you've got, which are your strengths as of today, which are your latent talents, which means you're not even aware of it and you've not had an occasion of using them, and which are your lesser talents and which are your weaknesses, so to speak. And then you, with the help of a coach, somebody who's certified like me, you work to consciously integrate that knowledge into your day-to-day work. You also look back at your successes in life and, try and figure out which of these talent themes were at play unconsciously back then, which helped you kind of truly succeed and become effective. And then going forward, how do you intentionally and consciously apply those things? That's how it's simple it works. And here is again where the cricket ball story and me come into picture. But we're not talking about me, we're talking about the GOAT, talking about Virat Kohli. So let's stay focused on Virat Kohli. Now, when you study Virat Kohli's behavior patterns, his obsession with fitness, his obsession with excellence, his obsession with not giving up, etc. I think you can broadly say, subject to any surprises, which will come up when we actually do the test, but broadly you can guess and say that, the following talent themes would be present in him, no matter what. One is what we call as maximizer. Now, people with maximizer, among other things, they have an obsessive focus on excellence, which is where they would challenge their own benchmarks. They're never satisfied with good enough. They'll always want to make it better and better and better and better. And maximizer is clearly evident in him in terms of how he's worked on his own challenges or the ghosts he faced in the England tour last decade and kind of overcame that. His focus on fitness and getting better and better and things like that. So maximizer certainly comes out. I think he's also a good case for another talent team called as achiever, which means that, he would make sure that, he will stay on and finish the job. And if he's not finished, he'll be harsh on himself and come back to do a better job the next time around. He's also, I think, a poster boy of responsibility. You take on the responsibility. You don't kind of blame someone else. You don't blame someone else. Right? I remember distinctly in the year 94 or so, there was a match that India was playing. And it was sad to see. I'm not blaming anybody because we all are wiser in retrospect. But each one of us has own challenges. But I think back then, I don't remember against which team this was, but Manoj Prabhakar and Nayan Mongia, when they saw that they saw back in those mental conditions 30 years ago, when they thought that the match was lost, they were just doing tuka-tuki, you know. You don't expect that. You can't expect that from a Kohli. Either
Correct.
he loses his wicket, or he gets a job done, but he
Correct.
will not hold himself back and trying. And that's a classic example of a person with a high talent team of responsibility, right? You also look at his competitive spirit.
Correct.
A little dicey to say, but he might have another talent theme called competition. He loves a competition, and the competition brings out the best in him, right? And I think the
Correct.
Australians figured it out nicely well a couple of years, saying that if you don't want to get beaten up by a Brian Lara, like Michael Vaughan realized after Brian hit them for 400 not out, and similarly the
Correct.
Australians talked about Virat Kohli, that if you don't want to kind of get taken to shredders and pieces, don't
Correct.
provoke, don't get competitive with these two people, right? And I think in one of the
Absolutely.
interviews, Anushka Sharma kind of, imitated how Virat Kohli would run over the stadium with this excitement, even if someone
Absolutely.
else got the wicket, right? So that's it.
Exactly.
Competition. So these are some of the talent themes I see, but he is also a great entertainer in the game, with
Absolutely.
the mimicking ability and all that. So I think he would have some good communication talent themes, no, and I think yesterday's interview also, Harsha was
Absolutely.
repeatedly pointing to that statement he made about Sachin Tendulkar at the 2011 World Cup, win. And I think he's also got a gift with words. He knows how to articulate himself well. So I think communication is another talent theme, which I'll not be surprised if I see in his top 10. He's also got, I think, good in terms of execution as well as, influencing talent themes. So execution, I've already spoken about responsibility, about, I think, the achiever part of it, right?
Correct.
Influencing me, certainly, yeah. Competition, I've spoken. Communication, I've spoken. I think he's got one more thing, and that is called command. I mean, he's somebody who will not hold anything back. He'll call a spade, whether it be to his own team members or to his own management or to the opposing team. He's not somebody
Correct.
who's shy away. So command is another talent theme, which again, I'd not be surprised if I do his, or if he does his own Clifton Strengths assessment, and he, asks me, hey, Shri, if you were to look at my report and tell me, and then
Correct.
with that report, I can do an appreciative inquiry with him, and then, help the world understand what was really going on behind some of his best performances, and which of those talent themes did he unconsciously bring back to use when he kind of had to reinvent himself. I mean, who would have given a chance, after to Kohli after what happened between him and Saurav Ganguly? A very sad and
Absolutely.
unfortunate thing. And I was telling one of my friends from Sri Lanka in the morning today that, this win is special because this came for a team that was absolutely fractured, between, let's say,
Correct.
Kohli and Ganguly and a Dravid, being left in the middle, all over to take care of Rohit on one side and then Kohli on the other side. And then between Kohli and Rohit, what had happened in the 2019 semifinal, we all heard the rumors that they had a fight because of, the timing at which Dhoni was sent into bat. And the rumors was that Rohit thought that Dhoni should have been sent earlier. We don't know. All that had happened, and then the fracture between, Hardik Pandya, Jasprit Bumrah, and Rohit Sharma. So given all those factors, to see what happened yesterday is phenomenal. But I think going back to what Kohli went through after that kind of, bad breakdown that happened, and from there to see him come back and do that 83 not out against Pakistan in the opener in the T20 World Championship in October 2022, I'll bet that while he may be conscious of some of the efforts he would have put at the mental level, at the
Right.
physical level, but we can also connect it back to some of his inherent latent talent themes that would emerge from it. And then he'll say, yeah, I know now these were the things that kind of, motivated me or helped me to kind of bring out my best game ever. Yeah. I mean, he was a match winner
Absolutely.
yesterday. Without his knock, we would have certainly lost it. But if you would ask me to kind of rate his performances, yes, it's also there with the 83 not out, but 83 not out is legend. I think that's where he became, Emperor Kohli in the in the words of one of
Absolutely.
those broad.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, we do see those facets of teams in his actions and his things, don't we? I mean, I remember him coming to the fore after that terrific knock against Malinga, one of the match earlier in his days, and that was against Australia. We were playing against Sri Lanka, if I'm not wrong. It was a triangular series between India, Australia, and Sri Lanka.
Okay.
So that's where he came to the fore after giving a treatment to Malinga. And of course, the rest has been history, and we definitely see these patterns as you mentioned. But just to simplify all the viewers out here, these are the 34 strengths, out of which Sri sir just decoded few for Virat Kohli, and you can of course Google it and see the remaining strengths and the meanings of it and how does they relate to. Having said that, coming to one more individual who's had a fairy tale kind of story with India winning the World Cup yesterday. Someone whom I have heard you giving stories and examples as well. It's the Mr. Dependable, the wall of Indian cricket, Rahul Dravid. I mean, from the time to what happened in 2007 in Caribbean to now the redemption story as a coach. People are almost comparing him to the Shah Rukh Khan of India, and it's
Yeah.
been that kind of a journey of his. How would you describe Rahul Dravid as a human being, person, and of course any facets of CliftonStrengths that you see overlapping with it? Yeah.
I'm getting goosebumps. Those goosebumps are not visible because of this beard that I've had to grow now. But before I answer that, even I must say this. When 2007 happened with Dhoni hitting the T20 inaugural championship, I think it was Shah Rukh Khan's Chak De India that kind of came in coincidentally at that time, and it was that song. And since yesterday, we are seeing that Lehra De song, from
Yeah.
'83.
Yeah.
I think Lehra De song could not have been more apt than what happened yesterday.
Absolutely.
Given what has been happening in the lives of the players that I just mentioned, be it Hardik Pandya or whoever that we spoke about.
Especially the emotional outpour that happened, it just went
Absolutely.
well with the story.
Absolutely. I'm wondering what would Sunil Gavaskar have to say now, because he said something about Dhoni's last six in the 2011 World Cup, and he said that when I'm on my deathbed and the last breaths are coming, I'd like to go off this world seeing that that six that Dhoni hit. What would the 83 team have to say about yesterday's match? I think they might. We would love to see Sky's catch a number of times, because I think that was the real clincher. Having said that, I think let's talk about Dravid. I think the greatness of Dravid comes from one significant event. You look at Steve Waugh's autobiography. Who does Steve Waugh ask to write his preface for his autobiography? He asks a much younger player, Rahul Dravid.
Yeah.
That speaks volumes for the man. Right. Now, I spoke about a talent theme called responsibility. Now, I don't want to guess what Rahul Dravid's other, top 9 talent in his top, in his dominant talent teams, because responsibility would be like from 1 to 10, right? Because he's such a poster boy of the definition of the talent theme called responsibility. So there are a number of players, in the Indian side who will be like poster people of the responsibility talent theme. He being one, Kumble being another, Virat Kohli being another, Rohit Sharma being another, so on and so forth. But I think because we're speaking about Rahul Dravid, let's keep the focus on Rahul Dravid. Rahul Dravid's top talent theme, without a doubt, would be responsibility. Now, people with responsibility, they take psychological ownership for what they say they would do or what others would ask them to do. They cannot say no, right? And I think this was also evident when Ganguly was running BCCI, and he asked Dravid to step in and become the coach. He took up a non-glamorous role of coaching the under-19 team first, if you look at it, right? Because that's where you build.
Won that,
And he won that, and because that's where you build your bench strength, right? That's where you build his bench strength. I think a great ambassador of the game, a very understated, self-effacing ambassador of the game, who I think has a lot of fans out there in the world. I didn't think the Nepalese cricket team will ever forget his gesture of reaching out to the Nepal team and congratulating them after that match that happened. I think a few years back when Dravid retired, there were a number of players from across the world who spoke about Dravid. And I remember what Matthew Hayden said, that, you talk about aggression, but if you really want to see aggression, look into Dravid's eyes.
Absolutely.
And I think the one and only, the irrepressible, the impossible, the incorrigible, infant terrible, Navjot Singh Sidhu said words about Dravid, which I think, says it all, when he said that, he's an absolute team man. And if you ask him to walk on broken glass for the team, he will do that. That's responsibility. That's responsibility. Exactly. Just like Virat Kohli steps in where he's needed to, especially like it happened yesterday or in the 83 not out against Pakistan, or like when, how Rohit Sharma does for the team first, right? Same is the case, I think, for Dravid. And I remember Ganguly was saying this, that, it must have been difficult for Dravid to kind of take up this role because he's got kids growing up, etc. But Indian team needs it, and he would step in. And I'm sure he would have found it very difficult to say no. But I think when he was being kind of, thrown up in the air yesterday, I'm sure his sons would have understood the sacrifice and the significance of the sacrifice their father made for them because of the responsibility factor. And when I wrote my Facebook post yesterday, I was actually initially worried which image should go with it. And then finally I knew that this is the image that needs to go with it, because we got 3 role models of responsibility, Virat and Rohit and, Dravid coming together. While in the picture I managed to click from the TV doesn't show Virat and Rohit, but I think those who've seen it would know what we're talking about. So I think what a man, what a performance, what a life, what a legacy, what a legend. And I hope, I'm sure the world is not going to let Dravid sit back, and I'm sure other people will come chasing him. And I hope that his sons have grown up enough for him to kind of be poached by other teams to be kind of taken back. And but I sincerely would wish Dravid to get the deep rest his body and soul needs. And I think all his suppressed emotions were visible yesterday when Virat gave him the trophy to hold, and the way he was talking, come on. I think everything that was suppressed inside came up. And so
it almost reminded us of the old Dravid who used to celebrate, after taking those slip catches, or sometimes, just scoring those hundreds. That's Rahul Dravid for you, and one of the legends of the game.
Absolutely.
Great. So, I mean, we've discussed about the match. We discussed about, Rohit Sharma in short, Virat Kohli, and also touched upon Rahul Dravid. Now, we are moving to the later part of our conversation now. But I want to ask this question. Maybe you may not have followed Indian team that keenly over the last few years, but, now that Rohit Sharma, Virat Kohli stepped down, who do you think, and I also wanted to know the reason for this, should lead India in the T20 World Cup as per you? And if there's any strengths-based backing to your answer that you may have.
I think there's only one answer. I want you to try and guess it first.
Oh, really?
There's only one player, in my opinion, who's qualified to lead the Indian team now. But you try and guess it first.
Okay. Interesting. Is it Jasprit Bumrah? Okay. Yes.
and you will be able to tell, Anurag, you've known me, how I think and what I see in people, right? And what I see in essentially what leadership is all about. I think you'll be able to answer the reason why as well. So you tell me, why do you think Jasprit Bumrah would have been my choice? Or should be anybody's choice for that matter? You give me the reason based on how you read Jasprit Bumrah.
Okay. So, I mean, I'll tell you my perspective of it, but of course, I'd love to know yours. Jasprit Bumrah, yes. Firstly, one of the highly consistent player in the cricket team, goes without a doubt after Rohit. Virat, he's the one to sort of take the bat in the head. And second thing, well, I feel he's the kind of person who might have that approachability factor. He may have that open door policy where you can just go on and talk to Jasprit, and he's that friendly guy putting an arm around you and just showing you the way if need be, and just making someone comfortable. Whenever you're leading a team, organization, or anyone to that matter, it's important that you have people come together and they feel like being with you, enjoy your company, and of course grow and prosper into it. So those two reasons: first, consistency, and a superb work ethic amongst the leading bowlers in the current day and age. I mean, it's no kids play to become that uh, great in his skill, and sustain it, more importantly. And of course, the fact that he might have a good approachable factor towards player, which makes him lead team and take it to next level. Yeah. So yeah, Jasprit Bumrah. But one more slight doubt, I had. Do you think Hardik Pandya would also go? Of course, I would love to know the Jasprit Bumrah reason, and if there's anyone else apart from that.
Well, I think I wish you had not asked the last part of the question in public. You got me in a trap, but I'll respond to that. When you asked me to compare between Pandya and Jasprit, but I think
maybe what you can do is just tell us about Jasprit Bumrah, and maybe if you feel there's any other option. I feel Hardik Pandya could be in the contention, but may not be.
He's certainly in the contention because he's the Indian vice captain right now, right?
Absolutely,
So
yeah.
Can't take that away. That's a fact. But then you asked me for the next one, and that's where I spoke about Jasprit Bumrah. Let me give you my reasons. Both the reasons you said are dot on: consistency, and I think his demeanor, where anybody can walk up to him. He doesn't have an aloof nature.
Absolutely.
Right? He doesn't kind of throw off this thing that makes people hate you. Like let's say some of the Australian players in the past managed to do that very well for themselves.
You want to name a few of them? Any that comes to you?
I think so many of them would have been. So many of them. Interestingly, there are surprises in that also. I'll tell you something. I learned something interesting about Andrew Symonds, which I never knew. I used to hate him. I mean, I can understand your need to win, your will to win, but you win it on your merits, yeah. Not on the way you kind of sledge people, or the way you do what the Australians famously called as a mental disintegration part. I can never what he did to the two players from RCB in the IPL second edition final in South Africa, right? Which, if you ask me, from being the league bottomers from season 1, single-handedly, Anil Kumble takes the team to the finals, and I think they've got a great setup coming. These two young openers from Deccan Chargers, RCB are walking, and Andrew Symonds walks next to him, and he's chatting very, like harmlessly. But I could see and I was screaming at my TV then, why don't you people put the fingers in your ears and don't listen to this man and don't listen to the nonsense? I think they both lost it. I mean, those Australians may justify it, saying, hey, it's a mental game and so on and so forth. But we all know their degree of fairness. Having said that, I just 2 days ago, I think I was watching an interview with Yuzvendra Chahal, and somebody was asking him about his great friend, Andrew Symonds. And he said, yeah, I miss him a lot. He became a great friend. He became a guide. And he said his wife, Andrew Symonds' wife, surprised him with butter chicken when he went to Australia. She somehow learned the recipe through YouTube and things like that, and they did it. And he says that even today, Andrew Symonds' wife calls him and calls Chahal and finds out if he's doing okay and all that. So, yeah, so there is a human side to it. Every human being can, at one level, disappoint you, and at the same time also surprise you and inspire you. That's there. But I think there are enough and more, I think, Australian players, who would kind of fit that description of making other people hate you because of the way they treat you. The Australian players, or for that matter, how the Pakistani team members in the past used to do, right? With the kind of aggression and all that they used to bring. The Pakistani team we see today is very different. I'm not talking about their competency level, but I think in terms of their banter, in terms of their camaraderie, in terms of being human and seeing each other as humans, right? Having said that, I think compared to all that, when you look at a Bumrah, he's so settled in his own skin that he doesn't have to prove any point. He doesn't have to impress anybody. And that I think contributes to the approachability factor. I'd not be surprised because I've not seen it, and you rightly say that I don't follow games actively. I just follow the stories of the game. But I'd not be surprised if more and more bowlers from different parts of the world would come and ask him for, tips and guidance and things like that, and he'd be as open with any. So that approachability factor, that consistency factor, that effectiveness factor, the responsibility he takes to do that, right? And I think there are some more reasons I would say so. I think, like I said, he's a great example of responsibility. He knows the game now. He's played the game enough, IPL and so many championships. So he knows what a leader's job is all about. But there is another quality about him, Anurag, that I want to highlight. And I was watching an interview with him. I mean, he was not saying it on camera, but his voice was playing. And he said that, I don't think I'm the greatest pace bowler yet. I see that I'm a pace bowler, but I will not say that I've become perfect. I'm still in the process of learning. And I'd like to learn. The only thing I'm passionate about is learning fast bowling. And I'm learning everything that I can about it. And I think great leadership is also about being a learner first. How much are you willing to learn? And that's also an example of what we in our parlance call as a growth mindset. Now, the match you played in is done and over. That situation is never going to happen again, that you have a playbook in your mind to kind of come back and do that. Even though I said that, I was hoping about Pandya, that Pandya would remember that final over he bowled and put himself. But the circumstances were vastly different. It was not the Bangladeshi team. It was the South African team, right? And there was still 16 overs. Back then, it was another same numbers. So no two matches can ever be the same. Therefore, what will help you is your growth mindset, where you're willing to learn, right?
Absolutely.
Willing to seek feedback and get going. And I think the most important reason is this, Anurag, what I will call is emotional maturity. What I'll call is emotional intelligence, right? All of us are emotional beings. Some are more, some are less. But I think what matters for a leader is emotional maturity and emotional intelligence, where you understand the emotions you by default go through, whereas vis-a-vis the emotions you need to cultivate inside you when performing a particular role, and also understanding the emotions other people around you are going through, whether it be your team members or it even be your competitors, right? Sportsman spirit is all about also appreciating the emotions the others are going through, and kind of reaching out and having a kind word for them. I think like Andrew Flintoff did, when I think the Australians lost their Ashes or something like that. I'll never forget what he did to Yuvraj Singh, and he paid the price. Spirit terms. I think I'll also remember him kneeling besides. I don't remember the name of the Australian player, and comforting him. So I think you need to have that emotional intelligence. It's not about emotional suppression or emotional expression. It is about knowing and having that awareness of the emotions and the roles emotions play, and being able to control the emotions when needed. Also call out the emotions, the right emotions, when those emotions are also needed to kind of, go get the job done. So I think from all those points of view, in addition to what you said, he has great leadership, potential and talent, and he should be given not the responsibility. He doesn't need to be told. Each time any of the captains have asked him to step up, he's done on the job. But I think he should be given the honor of leadership.
Absolutely. I mean, we both are on the same page that it should be Jasprit Bumrah. Let's see how it pans out. We would certainly know what's in the tank, and of course, who's the coach of Indian team now. Gautam Gambhir is quite in contention and in talks, but it'll be really interesting to see the dynamics, and especially the correlation to the strengths, and how each other complements. It's been a fascinating concept, and since I've myself learning, hearing, experiencing more about it, that's something we see all around and across us. So I would want to conclude this discussion of ours, but any with the context of this call for all the viewers out there, if they get 1% of what CliftonStrengths is, or about why someone does things that they do, and how do we leverage about human beings and the way they are wired in a certain way, life would be different. And this is something that you have told me, which has always stayed with me. So yes, any parting remarks on the World Cup victory, and how was your experience about it? Yes.
I think so far as this victory is concerned, I think I'm going to keep going back to those videos for years to come, because I don't think.
And maybe incorporate some of them in your sessions also.
Absolutely, absolutely, without doubt,
I would
right?
love
I
to
think,
see how you integrate those. Yeah.
yeah. See, Bumrah is a case study for me in my strengths workshops, right?
Mhm.
Because he's got the most unconventional bowling action for a
Absolutely.
fast bowler, right? You look at a Mohammad Shami, you look at a Mohammad Siraj. These are your classical pace bowlers, in terms of their actions,
Correct.
and they've got the job done. I wouldn't call it an India versus New Zealand semi-final that happened last year in November 14th on Kohli's birthday. I would call it Shami final, right? Because of what Mohammad Shami did with those 7 wickets. And you look at it, there's nothing spectacular or awe-inspiring in terms of his run-up.
Mhm.
And then he's still effective. And now you look at Bumrah. And Bumrah, I remember, he was saying that I don't think there's anything peculiar about my bowling style. It's the one that I've worked on, comes to me naturally, and is the most effective, and I use it. And I think that's where the clue to strengths is. His keyword called, that's what comes to me most naturally, and something that I've worked on. And I think that's what we need to understand about strengths. What is it that comes to you so naturally as a consistent pattern in terms of your thinking, feeling, and doing, that helps you get the job done in your own unique manner? That's where the clues to your talents and strengths lie. And if you can figure that out, you get the better. Now, that's a technical part of my answer to your question, Anurag. But do you want to just leave it at that technical definition, or do you want to hear my personal story on that?
Oh, I would any day want to hear your personal story. Please do.
So, I was talking about the fact that when I do my corporate sessions, I carry this, old worn out cricket ball with me. And I keep it on my table, and it's usually a 2-day workshop, and it's there on both the days, along with two hugging figurines, made of porcelain. So there are two things that are kind of hugging, and so these two are there on my table, and it's primarily to get people to become curious about what this is all about. And on day 2,
Mhm.
we do an interesting exercise called the inanimate object exercise. And at the end of it all, people say, Sri, we've been seeing this cricket ball since yesterday. What is the story about it? And I say that's where the whole thing about strengths is all about. I was passionate about cricket. Uh, you know, when and I'm talking about, say, 33, 31 years ago, back in the late 80s, early 90s, up to 93, 94 or so. We used to play cricket in our colony in Delhi, where I grew up, in a place called Pushvihar, Sector 5 Park. And back then, we would have these tennis balls, or we would have these hard plastic balls, and we would have these flat surfaces, as flat as a rock, mud surfaces, but that are flat. Now, in that area, I could come in and bowl, and I could generate a fierce bounce and pace. And there were times when, the ball would hit somebody here and they would not be able to play. There was only one friend of mine who could play out all my balls. In one over, I will bowl in 6 different ways. I will bowl a Phil DeFreitas way, an Imran Khan way, an Allan Donald way, a Javagal Srinath way, 6 different bowling actions in the same over. No one else could play, but except for this friend of mine who today is a brigadier in the army. Okay. But that's not the point. The point is something else. Long story short, I had the passion for cricket, but not the physical structural talent for cricket. As a result of which, when I would do the bowling, I would have this, injury in my palm. It would hurt. And then I didn't know I had flat foot. So it would affect
Mhm.
my knees, my calf, and my lower back muscles. And I would be out of action within 2 weeks. So I was quite like the old Australian bowler, Bruce Reid, who was a great left arm bowler, played in the 87 World Cup, but he was always prone to injury. Now, when I couldn't bowl with this arm, guess what I did? I changed from pace bowling into spin bowling, right? And I had the erstwhile legendary off spinner Rajesh Chauhan. And I hope he gets to see this or hear this interview. Thank you, Rajesh Chauhan, sir, for the kind of off spin that you did. I modeled him. I modeled him to learn off spin, right? I didn't want to be a spinner. I thought spinners are not really bowlers. It's only pace bowlers who are bowlers, right? I'm talking of an immature 16-year-old, okay?
Mhm.
I modeled myself on Rajesh Chauhan. And, Rajesh Chauhan, SLV Raju, and Anil Kumble whitewashed the English team that came visiting in January 1993. The 3-test series, India won 3-0. And I modeled myself on Rajesh Chauhan and learned to do off spin with a tennis ball. Okay. And started doing well, but again, the problem came back. Now, I literally cannot use my right arm. Guess what did I do?
You must have remodeled or sort of worked it around.
Whatever I could do with my right arm was
Uh-huh.
done. From pace, I changed to spin. From a long run-up, like an Allan Donald, I turned to a short run-up, like Rajesh Chauhan. But the pain and the problem came back in this hand. I could not bowl even one ball. But I was passionate about cricket. I still am. So it's another matter that I can't watch matches. But I want you to try and guess, what do you think I would have done after that?
You tried following it, commentary or something in the periphery?
That
Left
happened.
hand.
Yes. I started bowling with my left hand.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
And I tried copying myself on Wasim Akram, even though I could back then. Right? But that wouldn't happen. That wouldn't happen. I just couldn't do it. But then I figured out that we have a great spin launching vehicle called SLV Raju. So SLV Raju, we used to call him as spin launching vehicle Raju, right? So he had this left arm spin bowling action. I copied him and I tried to do it. It took me, I bowled for 2 weeks without any batter in front. My job was just to make sure that I'm able to come in and bowl, and the ball gets a line length and accuracy. So initially it went wide, and then eventually it was about hitting the wicket, right? Get there. In 2 weeks' time, Anurag, I managed to get my line and length and accuracy there. Left arm. I'm a right-hand person, but I managed to bowl with the left arm, right? And then I had batsmen come in and say, okay, now let's have a batsman in front of the wicket. Of course, I started getting it all over the place. That didn't bother me. I said, eventually with practice, I'll get good, but let me do this. But the story was that the same problem happened in my left wrist also. So there came a point a few months later where I couldn't bowl with this. And on top of it, my back problem kept recurring because of the flat foot, which I didn't know back then. So eventually in 1995 September is when I played my last cricket match, or the ground cricket match, or the gully cricket match, if you call it. I left it. I was very sad, but later on I realized that I had a talent and passion for collecting stories. And the first story I collected was the Brian Lara 277 not out, and what his coach told him. And that story stayed on with me. And over a period of time.
Start with a zero.
Sorry?
You start with a zero?
Yeah. Remember, your next score starts with a zero. So I started looking and collecting, and that came very naturally. I didn't consider myself as a story vault. Till a few years ago, some of my clients said that, Sri, we figured out your training programs. There'll always be plenty of stories through which you do that. So I started collecting. So my passion for cricket remained, but my other talent in terms of communication helped me kind of, go back. Now, if you look at the first part of the story I narrated, pace didn't work, I switched to spin. Right arm didn't work, I switched to left arm. If you were to describe this quality or this aptitude or this trait in one word, a word that starts with the letter A, what would you call that?
Adaptability.
And guess where adaptability is in my talent themes? It's in my top 10. It's in my top 10.
Yeah.
So situations change. I might get disappointed or upset about it. I might be very pessimistic about it for some time, but I don't give up. I'll find some way or the other to adapt to the situation. I didn't realize it, Anurag, I didn't realize it when I was 17 or 19 years old. I realized why I had adaptability when I went through the report with a coach and I sat down and I connected it to my past stories. And that's when I realized that I am designed to be adaptable, right? And therefore, if any situation happens in my life, I will be one of those few people who will find it relatively easy to go with the flow, go with the change, rather than be upset about the change. So that's the story about me and cricket, and strengths.
Absolutely.
And adaptability.
Wow.
And also the variation in my bowling style in the same over also connects with my talent themes in terms of strategy as well as maximizer.
Lovely. I mean, it's interesting, the world of strength psychology and how things, happen to certain individual, and the deeper we go, it's a ocean in itself. But today we are here discussing just the tip of the iceberg. I'm sure it's quite deep, it's quite extensive, and of course, you being a certified strengths coach, you are helping people and sort of take their potentials to the next level. But yes, I think I'll conclude today's discussion for the time being. A lot of stories still in the bank, a lot of things yet to be spoken, and hopefully we'll have a part two of this discussion very very soon. But I hope this was helpful. And how was your discussion today on the call?
Helpful. This was lovely.
I'm glad. And I mean, we should do this quite more often. Let
Absolutely.
people also tell us if they like this, and we would love to. They would like to see this more of. And yep, look forward. It's a great occasion to celebrate India's victory. There were firecrackers in the area that I stay, and a lot of rallies. So let's enjoy the moment, and we'll probably connect soon and take out more stories from your city.
And I want to end on one thing that you said, Anurag. I think you and I are doing this because I think we both enjoy about strengths. You've done your Clifton strengths, and then we've had a great discussion as to how we make great partners, right? You have the talent themes that I don't have, and I have the ones that I don't have, and we have some common talents also. And I think that's where, and of course, the common passion for cricket is what makes it lovely and enjoyable. But I want to end with this fact that when you spoke about strengths, and you spoke about how deep it is. See, I've always seen that the field of strength psychology is as big, large, deep, and wide as the North and the South Pacific Ocean put together. Maybe all these oceans of the world put together. And a person's report, their strengths report that comes out, that 25-page is not a 25-page report. It is a minefield that you can keep mining for the next 25 years of a person's life.
Wow.
Yeah, absolutely. And in fact, like I've shared with you, one of my dreams is to actually, I mean, being a maximizer, I always, look at the best and the best. And I'm always obsessed about studying the best in the field to see what helps them, take. And it's been my dream to, find out the CliftonStrengths profile of some of our wonderful cricketers across the world and interview them and bring out their stories, which no one else has brought out, and, share those stories across the world. Hopefully it happens sometimes. But I think you and I will keep talking. And thank you for asking me to do this. Been lovely, lovely chatting with you.
Inshallah, it's been a pleasure, and I hope this is just a start. Look forward to many more.
Many more, many more. Yeah.
All right. Thank you
Thank
so much. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.